I'd like to welcome award-winning investigative journalist Mariana van Zeller to Sidewalks Entertainment. Hi, Mariana. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Lori.
So, you've led and continue to lead an extraordinary career in investigative journalism, having been face to face with people who are considered dangerous and in the field exploring black markets. How did you start your career as a journalist, and how did that later lead into the work that you do now?
Yeah, I decided pretty early on when I was 12 years old that I wanted to be a journalist. I used to watch the news program in Portugal where I grew up every night with my family. It was the only way that we could then watch what I actually wanted to watch, which was the soap opera. And it was and I remember watching these anchors in Portuguese television talking about the whole world with so much knowledge. I was just obsessed with that sort of memory. How do they retain so much information? I had no idea they were reading from a teleprompter, and but it was back then that I decided, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be a journalist and have this amount of knowledge of what's happening in the world. And then I moved to the United States to study journalism at Columbia University, and I was a month into my program in New York when 9/11 happened, and I was the only Portuguese journalist in Manhattan at the time, and I ended up doing all the live reporting for a Portuguese news channel. And that really had an impact in my life because I realized then and there that I was really fascinated by these underworlds, by these illegal black markets that exist around the world. And I was very curious about what could have caused or who was behind these attacks. And a year later, I moved to Syria, and that began my career in investigating these black markets.
So when you're working on a project and know you're going somewhere dangerous or it might possibly become a dangerous situation, how do you mentally prepare yourself beforehand?
I love what I do. I find it, I'm incredibly privileged to be able to go out there and explore parts of the world that people rarely get access to. And even better that I can show them to audiences around the world. So I think the mental preparation actually happens more when I'm back and trying to dissect everything and analyze and be able to put together a story that makes sense. But usually I'm just itching to get out the door. But also, we go to risky places and dangerous situations. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of meetings, a lot of risk assessments. There's a lot of training, even hostile environment training that every single one of my team members and myself do every time we go out there. But as Mike Tyson would tell you, plans are great until you get punched in the face, and
Okay.
that's the case when we go out there. That we can plan for everything, but the unexpected can happen and often happens.
You host the Emmy Award-winning docuseries Trafficked with Mariana van Zeller. Uh, in this series, you often come face to face with people who might be considered dangerous. You seem so calm, whereas in some of the situations I've seen you in, I'm actually nervous for you. What goes through your mind during these interviews, and how do you stay calm in situations where many would likely feel fear or nervous?
I think for some people might see a bad person, a person that they have nothing in common that they can't relate to. I have always approached people around me in general with empathy. I'm much more curious to understand why people make the decisions they do or why they entered a life of crime than I am in judging them. I think that understanding why they do what they do will really is the only way that we can find solutions and try to prevent these black markets from existing. So my approach is always curiosity and empathy and less judgment. And I think at the end of the day, that's why people agree to talk to us. It's ego, it's wanting to boast about what they do, but it's also this very sort of human characteristic that we all share of wanting to be understood. And that's the opportunity we give them.
You learn and absorb a lot of information in the line of work that you do. I'd imagine that it can be incredibly stressful. So, what do you like to do to relax and decompress when you're off work?
Working is what relaxes me. Not working is what makes me nervous.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's nothing else out there in the world that than being. I'm a mother. I love that so much. Obviously, that's my number one priority always. But there's something very thrilling about the opportunity, that go to the places, the worlds that people don't ever get the chance to go to, and to connect on a human level with people that at first glance we have nothing in common with. That's pretty special. So that's what I do to relax.
So, one last question before we run out of time. For anyone who would like to do what you do one day, what piece of advice would you like to give them?
I think that very important. Obviously, it's a little bit of a cliche, but I cannot tell you enough how important it is to be determined. I came to the United States. I wanted to go to Columbia University to study journalism. I applied the first year, I didn't get in. I applied the second year, I didn't get in. The third year, I flew to New York and I knocked on the dean's door. And that was my first big, and I got accepted, and that was my first big lesson in journalism, right? Determination. No matter how many people tell you you can't get there, you have to believe in yourself, and if you keep trying, you will get there. But I think also humanity, trying, facing the world, and when you meet people, treating people with respect and with empathy, I think will unlock a lot of opportunities for everyone, journalists and or not.
Mariana, you really are so amazing. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today.
Oh, thank you, Lori. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Everyone, you can watch Mariana van Zeller in the series Trafficked on National Geographic and Hulu. Mariana, you take care.
Thank you. You too.